Hi everyone, and welcome back to Rough Rider, where every week I talk writing, self-publishing, and living in a barely literate society. Today I'm going to be talking about ISBNs and 5 things you should know before you go and buy one for your indie book. ISBN stands for International Standard Book Number, and since 2007 it's a 13-digit string of numbers. It's a unique identifier for a given book, so it specifies the format, the edition, and the publisher. This makes it easier for libraries and bookstores to find your book. Also, retailers probably won't sell your novel without an ISBN, so it is necessary. So the question is, where do you go about getting one? So every country has its own issuer of ISBNs, and in the US, that's Bowker. Bowker essentially has a monopoly on ISBNs in the US. And if you're a self-publishing author on a budget, it can get a little pricey if you decide you're going to buy through Bowker. But don't worry, you do have other options. So what are 5 things you should know before you go and spend money on ISBNs? The number one thing you should know is that ISBNs can be expensive. If you buy through Bowker, the prices can be pretty high, especially if you don't have a big budget to work with. It's $125 for a single ISBN. Luckily, you can buy them in bulk, so that takes the price down quite a bit. It's something like $295 for 10 ISBNs, making them each like $29.50, so it is a lot cheaper. But if you're on a tight budget, even buying in bulk might be too much. When I first started out in self-publishing, I didn't know a thing about ISBNs, and I went ahead and bought 20 of them in bulk. So the problem was that the Aetherverse, the first novel I ever published, my sci-fi novel, kind of a ridiculous novel. It went through a bunch of changes to the trim size and format after I had already picked out a print-on-demand service for it. I had already set up the title and I had already assigned one of the ISBNs that I had bought. And then I decided I was going to change something about the trim size because I really hadn't made up my mind yet. And anytime you change the trim size, you have to use a new ISBN. So I ended up blowing through a ton of the ISBNs that I had bought when I could have just used 1 or 2 of them if I had really planned everything out ahead of time. So if you do want to buy ISBNs through Bowker, learn from my mistakes, and my 2 pieces of advice would be to 1, buy in bulk, it is cheaper, and 2, make sure that you know, or at least close to being sure, that your book is not going to go through any significant changes in the near future. Otherwise, you're going to have to use those ISBNs that you've bought when they could be put towards a new title, not just the same title that had some change that you hadn't planned for. So the second thing you should know before buying ISBNs is that most ebooks don't need an ISBN. Kindle Direct Publishing and similar services will let you publish your ebook without an ISBN. So that's great if you're trying to save money. And if you're only publishing an ebook, like if that was easier for you or that's all you're going to do for now just because of the formatting being simpler, then you're not going to have to spend anything on an ISBN. If you do decide to buy ISBNs from Bowker, though, try to consider if you really want to use any of those right away for your ebooks. You might be able to put them to better use for a print book or a future print book if you know that you don't necessarily need the ISBN for your ebook version. That being said, I do think it looks more professional to have an ISBN for your ebook, but not everyone's in a position to spend that kind of money on something that's not absolutely necessary. So don't feel guilty if you don't have one. I'm not trying to shame you. Now, the third thing you should know before buying an ISBN is that there are free ISBNs. Even though ebooks don't need an ISBN, print books do. But you don't have to buy through Bowker. Most print-on-demand services will issue you a free ISBN and essentially act as agents for Bowker if you don't own an ISBN already. But because you don't own the ISBN, the print-on-demand company does, you can't list yourself as the publisher. Something generic will show up on the Amazon product page, like for Ingram Spark, I think it comes up as IndiePub. Honestly, readers probably won't notice, but bookstores will. Free ISBNs are non-transferable, and most bookstores won't sell books with free ISBNs assigned by KDP or something else. But to be perfectly frank with you, when you're starting out in self-publishing, your book's probably not going to get picked up by a brick-and-mortar bookstore anyway, so really all that matters is Amazon. Now, when I first started out, I was really against the idea of using one of these free assigned ISBNs. I was under the impression that if you get your ISBN through the print-on-demand service, then that means that you're like bound to the print-on-demand service for the foreseeable future. Like, I kind of thought that the print-on-demand service would then own the rights to your book. So that's why I went and bought my own, because I wanted to have this freedom to move around and go to any print-on-demand service I wanted, because I was mistakenly thinking that I would be stuck with one if I didn't buy them. However, I was completely wrong. You still own the copyright no matter what. ISBNs carry no legal or copyright protection in the US. So you can take your book wherever you want. You can go to any printer you want and it doesn't matter. You'll just have to use a new ISBN for your book when you go to a new printer, which can either be one that you bought or it can be one assigned by your new printer. Now, the fourth thing you should know before you go and buy ISBNs is that paid ISBNs do not need a free barcode. If you go to the Bowker website and you see where you could buy the ISBNs, they really push this idea that you should buy a barcode with it and get it as part of a package deal. So we're talking like the barcode that you would scan when you're buying something. However, you don't need one. You really don't. Only printed books need barcodes, so if you have an ebook, then it doesn't matter at all. And if you do have a print book, your print-on-demand service will give you a barcode. It'll either automatically slap it on the back of your book, or it'll give you a file with the barcode that you can add to your book cover yourself. So just don't fall for Bowker's little marketing trick where they try to get you to buy one, because you really don't need to. You'll get a free barcode from your print-on-demand service anyway, so if you buy it through Bowker, you just wasted a bunch of money for nothing. And finally, the fifth thing you should know before you go about buying some ISBNs is that some changes don't require a new ISBN. An ISBN is uniquely assigned to your self-published book, but your book can have more than one ISBN. There's usually a different ISBN for every format of your book, so paperback, hardcover, ebook if you want to, and an audiobook. But sometimes you need to assign a new ISBN even if the actual print medium didn't change. Your book still might be a paperback, still might be a hardcover, but you need a new ISBN because of various changes that you have made that aren't the print medium. If you're making the following changes, then you don't need a new ISBN. A change in retail price, minor corrections to the text like fixing typos and grammatical errors, uploading a new cover, which honestly I was surprised by when I found that out, and changing print-on-demand services. Granted, that is if you own the ISBN yourself, because if it's a free one, then it was assigned by the print-on-demand service that you are currently leaving, and then the new one is going to have to assign another one to you. So it will change. But if you make these changes, then you do need a new ISBN. And these are a change in trim size, making significant changes to your book, like adding or removing entire subplots or characters, changing the book title, changes in book binding, and releasing a foreign language translation. So if you decide you want to buy the ISBNs yourself, knowing which changes require a new one and which don't will save you a lot of money, because you won't go wasting the ISBNs that you bought on changes that you didn't need a new ISBN in the first place. So when you're first starting out in self-publishing, ISBNs can be a little confusing, and there's a lot of stuff that people don't know about them, like even where to get one. But if you know your options and you know what unnecessary expenses to avoid, you can really help yourself out by going easy on your budget, which you could put to better use on things like marketing and promotion. For a little bit of a longer take on this topic, you can check out my blog. There's a link in the description below. And if you found this helpful, please like and subscribe, follow me on social media, and as always, thank you for watching. God bless.